Hello, greetings and welcome. I hope you enjoyed the last video, the straight peacock waggler. Now, in this vlog, I'm actually going to show you how I make a triple inserted peacock waggler. It's a step waggler, in other words. And the reason why this particular float come into fruition, it was an idea picked up from the Austrian anglers way back when we fished in the World Championships in Plovdiv, which is in Bulgaria, by the way. Anyway, the fact was that these Austrian anglers are quite masters at waggler fishing. They designed wagglers that were basically aerodynamically shaped, loaded, and with flights in them, and they could cast them 50 odd yards, meters or more. Fantastic, I thought. But looking at these wagglers in a closer detail, what we did find was they were very into their step wagglers. And the reason being is obviously with waggler fishing, because it's on a slow drop, what you find is that you can catch fish at different levels and different layers of water. And with a step waggler, it gives you this same bite indication on a slow drop, but at the same time, you can colour each step a different colour. So if you're fishing in a multicoloured background, you know, trees and bushes and a clear skyline, it actually shows you bites on the drop. But I'll explain that a bit more as I go into the video, because obviously I haven't got a diagram here somewhere. Yeah. Let me see. There we are. You might not be able to see that. 3 steps to it. So, and the shotting pattern is quite interesting as well. It's usually a bug down. Sorry about that, I just farted, by the way. Anyway, there's 3 elements to this float. 3 items of peacock. First is a main body peacock, which I'm actually making a 3 AAA waggler. So the first thing I need to do is to cut off from a long length of peacock a short piece of about 8 inches. Then on the top of these wagglers, on top of the peacock, as it becomes thinner, I then cut off a finer bit. This is going to be for the middle insert, and then on the very top of the peacock quill, you have the finer, smaller diameter as it tapers off. So the idea is to cut 3 pieces, and these have got to be cut again and glued together. Now the process is quite simple. Before I put the base in, what I'm going to do is just sand it off. Get rid of the bits of feathers which are still attached to the inside of the quill itself. Yeah. And when that's nice and clean, that's about it. As you see, it doesn't take much rubbing down to. There's another way you can get rid of the feathers on the quill, and that is with a small lighter. And you just run the lighter along, and it'll burn off the feathers. But I don't want to do that, because knowing my luck, I'll burn the bloody place down. Right, okay. So now I've sanded that down, I know I'm going to put my base, my plastic eye in the bottom, just like I would the waggler. So I'm going to make a little indentation there. But on the top, I'm going to make a slightly bigger indentation so I can insert the next piece of peacock, which, use that bit there. Now what I've got to do, I've got to push in slowly, and I will super glue that in Okay, so that'll be the next stage. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually, I'm going to super glue this in now. So by the time I cut the other piece, it should be ready for insertion. So here we go. So this is going to go down into it, hold it nice and firm, pinch it together, and it's a good idea as well if you can. I don't know if you can see the way the inside of the quill is actually matching. I don't know what you would call that part of the quill, but that's like the inside strengthening part. Okay, now when I've done that, I should just fine that off a little bit to get rid of some excess feathers around it. I say this is a bit fiddly, but as I say, these type of floats, they do work marvellous in when you're fishing on the drop. And I will show you the shotting pattern on this, because the shotting pattern where we put a bug down the line and then we put our dropper tails below it, which gives us a nice drop. Right. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to cut this bit. This will be the next part of it. So, yeah. So what I've done now, if you can see that, I've created the second step. Just find that down a bit more because I can just see a few little bits of feathers still sticking to it. Okay, it's getting better, yeah. Okay, now I'm going to make another indentation into the top of this middle part of the quill. There you go. And then we shall put the top part of the quill in that, like so. There you go. So as you can see, now we've got a 3-step quill. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut a little bit of this off because I want to even it out so we've got a nice, that's about it, I think. Yeah. Right, I'll just take the edge off that. Okay, so there you go, you got a 3-step quill. Now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put a bit of super glue on that now, so to fix it. Amazing, isn't it, super glue? You know, technology's come a long way, and I tell you what, this super glue has got to be one of the best inventions ever for float making, certainly for a lot of other applications. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to sand this down so we've got a nice smooth quill. There you go. So now you can see we've got a 3-stepped quill. Now the idea of this, of course, as I mentioned before, is that not only do we colour these sections in different colours, and the main reason being, of course, is that when you're fishing on the drop, and as your shots are settling in the water, and you happen to have a lift bite, you want to see it, especially at a distance. You want to see if it starts, and if it starts to rise in the water, then that's you can determine that that's a lift bite, and all the way down to the tip. That's where you would normally set the float, because if it didn't settle in the water and it's only settled on the second step, you know you've got a bite. There's a fish on the end. And the same if it didn't settle completely onto the second section. Again, you've taken a fish that's taken the bait high in the water. Okay. The final stage now is to put the insert in. As I said, I've already started the indentation dead center for the plastic eye to go. So now, as the peacock, we start to twist very slowly into the base, and as we do, it starts to embed itself into the quill itself. And there you are. So all I'm going to do now is to try and straighten this up, and I'm going to put a bit of super glue on it, and that should do it. Okay, now I've located that, which I think it's about right. Just pinch that together now. Yeah, and now I shall introduce the super glue. Making sure I try not to get too much super glue on my fingers. Yeah. Again, I'll use the back end of this paper to seal it together. There we go. That's it. So now I've got a 3-step waggler. The next stage is to paint it. Okay, now just to before I start the painting, I'm just going to try and smooth down any rough areas on the quill itself. This is usually where the feathers once remained, so I'll try and make this as neat as I can before we paint it. Yeah. Okay, just inspect now, just around the end there. Okay. Right, now the next stage is painting the float. Now, as I mentioned before, I'll use the granite light black colour, and I'll be painting the full body of the main body of the peacock there. I shall be leaving the middle bit white, and we shall be putting orange on the top there. So you have in fact 3 different colours then, and this is what we want, especially when we're fishing this waggler and we're fishing on the drop. Okay, you're just going to paint it now. So I'm going to start off on the top of the float, and I'm just going to go over the joint, so that gives it a bit more strength. Okay, then I'm going to start to brush downwards, down the quill, down to the base. And at this stage, once I've done this, I'm going to put this to one side and I'm going to let it dry. And once it's dry, I shall then possibly a bit of white acrylic paint in the middle, and on the top I'll be putting the blaze colour as we did in the straight peacock float vlog. There you are. So we're getting there slowly. Okay, now the next stage, I'm going to dispense some of the fluorescent spray, if you like, into the top of the lid, or any container would do, because what I want to do is capture the spray, because we're not going to paint, we're not going to spray directly onto the top of the float, because it just won't work. So what we do is capture the colour, the blaze colour, or in this case. And what I'm going to do, I'll just show you. I'll just put some in here now. Yeah, when I've got adequate enough to colour the tip, I'll then get a cotton wool bud. Okay, just had a quick break then. Right, before I'm going to paint the actual tip in the blaze colour, as I said, I've introduced the spray into the top of the can of the what I'm going to do, I'm going to let it just evaporate just for a couple of seconds so that it congeals, so it makes it easier to paint onto the float. Now in the meantime, what I have done, using my white felt, white tip, like a water sort of base, as I mentioned before, very similar to the Tipex, and it dries, and when it dries quite good, and it's quite durable, but it still needs to be varnished over because otherwise it may come off in the water. What I've done, I've actually put the capacity on, which is 2 AAAs. So I've just written that on now. So now I think it should be enough time. Yeah, I think that's probably about right. Yeah. Now, the reason I use cotton wool buds is that they're cheap. And I tell you what, it's a nightmare when you use a brush, paintbrush, trying to get this paint off the bristles is quite hard. So I found these are disposable cotton wool buds are much easier. You know, you can just throw it away when you're finished. Right, so what I'm going to do now, as I mentioned before, I'm going to colour the top blaze. I'm going to leave the middle section white. Okay, and as I've already mentioned, that's for that's so we can determine the bites on the drop. There you are. So just so that dry, and then what I'll do, I'll just put another little coat over it. And once I finish this, then I'll let it dry, and I'll varnish it. Probably 2-3 coats of varnish, and that will be the final float finished. Okay, marvellous little floats, as I mentioned before, ideal for on the drop. I mean, you know, normal peacock, or even an insert, which I'll probably show you on the next vlog. But this inserted peacock is far superior to any other waggler when it comes to fishing on the drop. And now I'm going to show you a shot-in pattern to go with this. Now I'm going to bring this up to the camera, but I want you to look. As you can see, I've set the float at what have I set it at? Oh yeah, 10 foot, and halfway down, or 6 foot down I should say, I put a bulk, and then I put 2 number 4s and a number 10. Now the idea of this, of course, is when you cast the waggler, you would feather it like you would any other waggler off the reel. And if you haven't seen that, you can see that in some of my vlogs that I've done earlier. And then by feathering it, the bulk will go forward into water before the float, and as that sinks, the float on the top will register possibly about an inch or so above the first step. Now as the droppers on the line start to drop one by one, the float will gradually come down in the water, settle in the water until eventually it settles just with the tip showing. But if you get a bite in the meantime, obviously it's going to keep the shots up, the fish are going to keep the shots up, and the float's going to stand quite proud in the water. That's when you know you have a bite and you strike. Again, I'll be covering all that later on in some of my other blogs. Anyway, right, it's only a short vlog, this one. Hope you enjoyed it. Next time I see you, hopefully I'll have my hair cut. That'll surprise you all, won't it? Thanks for watching, and don't forget, subscribe, share, and I'll see you in the next one.